Hello students, now we are discussing about the microbes in production of biogas. Already we have discussed the use of microorganisms in sewage treatment plant. Now we are discussing about the use of microorganisms in production of biogas. Already you know that what is biogas. Biogas we also call as methane gas, and it is produced from the waste of animal dung. Okay, we call it as animal dung that is fermented. Okay, because it is treated by the bacteria. Now from where this bacteria comes, actually what will happen, these animals like cattle, cow, buffalo, so what they have in their stomach, methanogen bacteria is there, and when these animals they release their waste, this bacteria along with their waste, it comes out of from along with the dung. Okay, and when we use this dung in the other animal waste in the biogas plant, these methanogen bacteria used to convert the complete waste, animal waste, into or the organic matter into the gas that we call as methane gas or biogas. Now you can see over here, biogas is a mixture of inflammable gases like methane, carbon dioxide produced by the microbial activity that can be used as fuel, mainly methane gas. Methanogens, these are the bacteria, particularly we call them as methanobacterium. These are anaerobic bacteria and they break down the cellulose material to produce carbon dioxide and hydrogen in anaerobic sludge in sewage treatment plant, as well as they are present in the rumen part of the stomach of the cattle that provide nutrition to the cattle. Okay, Indian Agriculture Research Institute IARI and Khadi and Village Industries Commission KVIC, they developed the technology of biogas in India. So now here from this one more question can be asked regarding the full forms. Okay, so now how this biogas is produced in a biogas plant, what is the structure of the biogas plant. So now look over here, look at the diagram properly. Now you see the mechanism of biogas or the gobar gas production. See the diagram, this is the complete structure of a biogas plant, where here you can see that the waste along with the water is mixed, waste of the animal along with water, it is mixed in the water and then it is poured over here. Then the waste enters into the complete big tank, and over here anaerobic breakdown occurs because these bacteria which is present in the animal waste, they are anaerobic bacteria, so they digest the cellulose in the big digester. This is called as digester. So over here the anaerobic bacteria or methanogen bacteria, they digest the cellulose and release carbon dioxide and methane gas. And the waste which is left after production of the gas, again some waste is left it out, that waste is used as manure in the fields, so nothing goes waste. Okay, so now we look at the complete procedure and how it is formed. Okay, see here the mechanism. The raw material of biogas production is the excreta or the dung of the cattle, we call it as gobar normally, which is rich in these bacteria. Which bacteria? Methanogen bacteria. Okay, the biogas plant has a concrete tank. The big tank is made up of cemented and concrete tank which is 10 to 15 feet deep inside the earth. Okay, it is not above, it is inside the earth, in which bio waste and slurry of dung is collected. Slurry is what? It is the waste of the animal mixed with water. Okay, then what will happen? The tank has a floating cover. This cover you can see over here, this cover, it is floating. That means it is not completely fixed. So this tank has a floating cover which rises on production of gas in the tank. When the gas is produced, the pressure of the gas increases. As a result, this tank lid or the cover, it moves upward. So methanobacterium in the dung, it acts on the bio waste to produce biogas, and the gas produced which is supplied to nearby houses by an outlet, and this is used in the for the domestic purpose. And through another outlet, the spent slurry means the waste which is left after complete formation of the gas, methane gas is produced, and again the waste which is left it out, that is called as the slurry, and it is also removed out from the tank and is used as fertilizers. So this biogas is used as a fuel for cooking as well as lighting, and the slurry is used for as a manure for fields. Okay. Next is microbes as biocontrol agents. We all know that microorganisms, they they are very useful. Some are very harmful, but still they many microorganisms, they are useful to us. So biocontrol means is defined as controlling of the plant diseases and pests by using biological methods. So earlier chemicals, like we know that in the fields chemicals like insecticides and pesticides, these were used for biocontrol, but nowadays more focus is done or given on organic farming, where everything which is utilized is away from the chemical, it is free from chemicals. Chemicals are not being used nowadays. The use of dependency on chemical is reduced. So what is done? So these chemicals, they are not used. So now what we are using? We are using the biological agents. So what are the disadvantages of using chemical agents? Okay, these chemical insecticides and pesticides, these chemicals are what? They are toxic and harmful to the human beings as well as to the animals, and they pollute the environment. They pollute the plant because they are not decomposed, they are not degraded, so they deposit inside the plant body and animal body. We have studied about this biological magnification. They obtain inside the organism body and passes from one organism to the other organism along with the food chain. And these weedicides used to remove weeds, they also pollute the soil. That means these chemicals, they pollute the soil, they pollute the plant body, they pollute the animal body, and are responsible for many diseases, as well as they are responsible for killing many useful microorganisms. Now, so what has happened? Organic farmers use holistic approach for following reason. The first one is keeping pest at manageable level. Pests are kept at manageable level so that the complex system, it can check the balance in the ecosystem instead of their complete eradication. They are not completely, means use of these microorganisms is done in such a holistic way that they are not being made to extent. Now here we can see this complete eradication of pest is undesirable. We can't completely eradicate the pest because these pests, though they are living, but still they are having a particular role in the environment, in the ecosystem, in a particular food chain. So we can't completely eradicate them, we can't completely make them to extinct. So what will happen? Complete eradication of pests is undesirable, as without them the beneficial predatory and parasitic insects which depend on them as food or act as host will not survive. This will disturb the balance of the ecosystem. That's why we can't eradicate or we can't make all these pests to die. So biocontrol agents, they reduce the dependency on the chemicals and fertilizers, because fertilizers are also chemicals. The following are some of the approaches for biological farming. First is familiarity. Means we should know what type of life forms is inhabiting the field. Okay, so that means what type of living organisms are present in the field, what type of living organisms are affecting the crops. Then only we can use the different biological agents to eradicate those pests from that area. Next is we should gain knowledge about the life cycle, pattern of feeding and habitat of predators and pests. We should know, that means not only about the plants knowledge is required, but about the pest as well as the predators and parasites, knowledge is also required for a particular proper organic farming. Now examples of biocontrol are, first is ladybird and dragonflies. These are used to get rid of aphids and mosquitoes. Where aphids and mosquitoes are there, these ladybirds and dragonflies, they used to kill, they feed on these aphids and mosquitoes, and they make the act as a biocontrol agent. Bacteria like Bacillus thuringiensis, BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, this is a bacteria, it is used to control the butterfly caterpillars. What is done? The dried spores of this Bacillus thuringiensis, spores of bacteria Bacillus thuringiensis, these are mixed with water and is sprayed on the plants such as brassica. Brassica is the wheat, okay, and fruit trees. Wheat plant and fruit trees, over there the spores, dried spores of this bacteria BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, is sprayed along with the water. And when the insect larva, after insect is there, insect lays the egg, and when that from that egg larva comes out, that larva when eat these spores, they are killed by the toxin released by these spores. And this toxin is becomes active when it enters, when these larvae they eat the spores, then a toxin is produced inside the gut of these larva, and then that in larva, or we call it as insect larva, it dies. So we are not using chemicals, we are using simply the bacteria, spores, dried spores of bacteria, and then the insect larva, it kills itself by consuming the spores. Then Bacillus thuringiensis toxin genes have been introduced into the plants. This Bacillus thuringiensis, its toxin is, we know that this toxin is not able to make this BT toxin gene is very essential, and when this BT toxin is injected in the plant, this makes the insect larva to be killed. It does not provide that environment to the larva to eat the plant, and it is automatically killed. So this Bacillus thuringiensis toxin genes, these have been introduced into the plants to provide resistance to pests, so that now the plant has become pest resistant. Now insect larva is not eating that plant, and if it eat that plant, then it is itself killed. So by addition of these genes in the plant, the new hybrid variety, we say the genetically modified plants are produced, and these we call as BT plants, or for example BT cotton. The next comes the Trichoderma species. These are free living fungi, and they are present in the root ecosystem, where they act against several plant pathogens. Trichoderma, this is present, is a fungus, free living fungus, and it is present in the root area. So when pathogens of the plant, they come and interact with the plant roots, this Trichoderma, it kills those pathogens and protect the plant from infection. Next is baculovirus. Baculoviruses are pathogens that attack insects and other arthropods. Most of these biocontrol agents, they belong to the genus Nucleopolyhedrovirus. Biocontrol agents, they belong to the genus Nucleopolyhedrovirus, and these are species specific. That means they does not attack the other organism, only a particular species. They are narrow spectrum insecticides. Okay, so that means where they have the prey, they attack over there only. So they do not harm the plants, they do not harm the animals, mammals, bird, fish and other non-target insects. Only one single target is there, only that is harmed, and the rest are left without harm. So they do not harm the plants, mammals, birds, fish and other non-target insects, Baculoviruses, these are helpful in integrated pest management program in which beneficial insects they are conserved and there is no negative impact on plant and animals, mammals, bird, fishes or other insects. Now next is microbes as biofertilizers. Microorganisms are used as biofertilizers. We all know about the cyanobacteria. The fungi are also there. So these microorganisms they increase the nutrient content of the soil. They mix with the soil or they provide the soil with the proper nutrients so that the soil fertility can be increased. So we call them as biofertilizers. So first we talk about the bacteria as biofertilizer, that is Rhizobium bacteria. Everyone knows Rhizobium bacteria is a symbiotic bacteria present in the root nodules of leguminous plants and helps in fixation of nitrogen and provide nitrogen to the plant body. Then is Aspergillus and Azospirillum and Azotobacter. These also are free living bacteria and they absorb free nitrogen from the soil and air and convert it into salts of nitrogen and increases the nutrient quantity of the soil. Then we say that fungi as biofertilizers. Fungi form symbiotic association with the roots of the higher plants called as mycorrhiza. Thus we have studied with the pinus. In pinus there is mycorrhiza where fungal association is there with the pinus root. So fungal hyphae, it absorbs phosphorus from the soil and it passes it to the plant. Mycorrhiza shows the benefits to the plant, that is it shows resistance to root-borne pathogens. Where fungi is there, where pathogens cannot attack. So here any pathogen which enters into the plant body through root will not be able to attack or enter the plant body because now due to the presence of these fungi, my root has become resistant. Second is tolerance to salinity and drought. These fungi they can resist to high alkaline area, okay, high alkalinity, basic medium. So what will happen, they show tolerance to salinity and drought condition because they makes the root to absorb water. They provide sufficient water to the root so that plant can retain. Now next is overall increase in the plant growth and development. They are very essential for, they are responsible for the growth because they are providing the resistance also, they are providing the water also for the plant. So they helps in increasing the growth of the plant and is responsible for the development of the plant body. Now next is cyanobacteria as biofertilizers. You all know about the cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria is blue-green algae. So blue-green algae is already we know that it is a prokaryotic and it is responsible for nitrogen fixation. So we say that cyanobacteria is a good biofertilizers and in the paddy field cyanobacteria blue-green algae is used. Here they fix atmospheric nitrogen and increases the organic matter of the soil through their photosynthetic activity. Examples of cyanobacteria, Nostoc annabina oscillatoria. Blue-green algae increases the soil fertility by adding organic matter to the soil and they import biofertilizers in paddy fields. They are important biofertilizers in paddy fields or the rice fields. What are the advantages of biofertilizers? That increases the fertility of the soil as well as they reduce the dependency on chemical fertilizers. When we are using this biofertilizer, then we don't have to add any chemicals in the soil. So what will happen? The chemicals are not used and the plants grow well because they are getting the proper nutrient, pure nutrient, free from chemicals and there is no pollution also. So that's all. This chapter has been completed.